This is episode 31 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview style podcast with the intention of highlighting women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. This podcast is generously sponsored by Think Global. Think Global is a business advisory firm working with women entrepreneurs around the globe to scale their businesses to the next level. Today, I'd like to welcome Cynthia Mavros. Merging bygone and modern artisanal techniques, CYN believes there is beauty in nonsense, creating characters that awaken emotions while evoking a sense of whimsy. Each one-of-a-kind creations is an assemblage of textures and colors, blending 3D printing, hand painting, and hand sewing. Cynthia, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Have you always been an artist?
No, I was a software engineer professionally for years.
Oh, that's interesting. How did you move from being a software engineer into this art space?
Probably like everyone you've talked to that's a creative. I've always made things and I always did artwork. But when I moved to Colorado years ago, I went to the Women's Resource Agency because I didn't have a job.
Okay.
And they had tests. You could take a test, basic math and reading comprehension, because a company was coming to town and they wanted to train people as machinists.
Got it. Okay.
So I took and passed the test, and for like 3 months you were trained as a machinist, and I got a job at Texas Instruments.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So because I think because I am creative and I've always sewn and made things, machining was easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was there, I continued my education in software engineering.
Okay. And is that where you've spent most of your career then, is on the software engineer side?
Yeah.
Okay. So then...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Up until about 6 years ago.
Okay. And what was the catalyst for a shift 6 years ago?
I got laid off.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's all, you know what, we've interviewed a couple of people that getting laid off was one of course it was tough at the time, but some new, beautiful, awesome project came as a result of that.
Yeah, because I always continued doing artwork and doing different classes and training. But I had visited my brother, and he has twin boys.
Okay.
And he said, teach the boys how to sew. And I was like, okay. So we took an old blanket and we made creatures.
Oh, that's really awesome.
So then I just continued to make first I continued to make soft sculptures.
Okay.
That was the start. And then, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I love that you with your nephews made creatures out of things that you already had. And just like your brother wanted his kids to be able to sew, I think that is such a unique talent. I would love for our children to have that skill, because I will say I try, but it just doesn't work out.
Well, I was staying with one brother, and I was talking that same trip to another brother, and I said, oh, you know, I taught Frankie's boys how to sew. And he goes, well, you taught me how to sew. And I go, I did? He goes, yeah. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize.
Well, wait, who taught you how to sew?
I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Okay.
And at the park districts, they had classes. So I went over to sign up for arts and crafts, and it was sewing.
Wow. You know what? I used to live in Chicago, and there is this great place. I cannot think of the name, but I believe it's called Gallery 39 or Gallery 89. It's downtown on Randolph, and it's basically an after-school program for at-risk youth, and it's basically an arts program for these at-risk youth. And the program takes these children's pieces of art and sells them in their gallery, and then that funds the after-school program. And we have this awesome painting that I've had for probably a decade, that as soon as I walked in there, I just, like, it called to me. It told me it needed to be in my home. So it's amazing what the after-school programs can do. Holy cow.
Because when I was a kid in Chicago, in elementary school, my artwork was always took and displayed like downtown at City Hall and stuff. But growing up in Chicago, you didn't think it was a big deal. You just thought that's my hometown.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was in Chicago.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. So that's how you learned to sew. So then, after you were laid off, did you know right away you wanted to you wanted to start It's a Sin? Was that like really on top of mind?
Well, I was back in Colorado, and there was some galleries that had this gallery show for using recycled materials. So I
Okay.
thought, okay, a bunch of characters, because I always drew characters, and see if they wanted to sell them. It was for the holidays, and she was thrilled with them. And then I applied for another show that holiday season, and I got accepted right away. And the gallery owner was like, "You got accepted for that show? No one does, So
Oh, that's awesome. That means you
yeah,
had something unique and really, really great.
my characters.
So, okay. So I understand your background. What I think is so interesting, just having seen your products and your creations, it stemmed from this piece of sewing, and there are still hand sewn elements of it, but you also use digital printing. So tell us all how that became a part of what you do.
So, as a software engineer, I moved to Europe and worked in different countries, and I ended up in the Netherlands. And MIT has a Fab Academy that's worldwide, and it's how to make almost anything.
Oh, okay.
So there was an Amsterdam branch, and they teach you laser cutting, 3D printing, electronics, vinyl cutting. You make your own circuit boards and things like that. And that's how I got involved in 3D printing.
Wow, okay.
And because of the machining background, as I progressed from machinist to software engineer, I worked in the tool design area, so I had to draw things in 3D. So I
Oh,
experienced drawing in 3D, and that's what you need to do for 3D printing. So a lot of the features of my characters, I couldn't buy what I wanted, and I didn't want to make them out of clay. So then I
right.
started printing things.
So okay, well, that leads me to two questions. So I'm kind of fascinated by this 3D printing situation. We happen to have a client, and I know that works with 3D printing also. And there are just some really amazing breakthroughs that are happening in that world. But I personally do not understand, like if you are 3D printing something, what are you putting into the machine? Like if you're making something out of fabric, are you putting fabric into the machine? Or if you're making, how does that work?
It's like here I have this guy. See, like the
Oh,
face.
yeah.
Face is 3D printed.
Okay. So it
So
needs to be like plastic that you're putting in?
it's a spool of plastic, and it
Okay.
feeds you a heated hot end. And you draw something in 3D on a CAD program on the computer, and you save it in a certain format. You
Okay.
send it to the 3D printer, and then the printer just builds layer after layer.
Ah, thank you for explaining that. That clears up a lot. Okay, so on that piece, then are there different, like, would there be different types of plastic that you put in there? Like, if you want something a little more pliable, or if you want something harder?
Yeah, there's all different kinds of plastics.
Okay.
And there's even ones with wood in them and metal, and
Oh,
it's
interesting.
it's only beginning, because a couple years ago, in around 2012, that's when I started. All the patents from big companies for 3D printers were up.
Oh, okay.
Personal 3D printers, because now people can use the technology.
I didn't realize that was the catalyst, because we are seeing and hearing so much about 3D printing. So that's interesting about the patents.
When
Okay.
I went when I was a machinist and we had a video on 3D printing, and they showed all these parts. I was like, oh, someday.
Yeah, and that day is today.
Make characters, and it was like, and then
That
finally I
is
got.
so cool. So then you put the plastic in, it 3D prints the piece of your creation, and then you hand sew fabric pieces around that.
I designed them so they can be sewn in.
Okay. Oh, right. So there's I don't know what you call them, like loops or something that you put the thread.
This little guy has 3D printed teeth.
Ah, uh-huh.
So underneath him, you can't see it. There's all these holes, so I can hand sew it in. And like even
Wow.
I plan it so that I can use a button eye to attach it.
Oh my gosh, this is really, really cool. Um, okay, so then what is your favorite part about what you're doing right now?
Well, so
It sounds like so interesting to me.
in the fall, I took this class in Berlin from this place, Pictoplasma, and it was a master class for character design, and I got
Okay.
accepted to take it. So it was to take your characters to the next level. And just like 2 weeks ago in Berlin, they had a big, then you created a design, and we had a show 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
So
wow.
then I took my characters, and now these are my 3D printed characters. I went completely.
Oh, okay. So,
So
so
this is
the
like my.
whole thing is printed then, right? Or is part of, I can't tell from the video, is part of it fabric or is it all printed?
No, the whole thing's printed and then hand painted.
Ah, okay.
So then I made like 3 picture boxes with this story of this space traveler and her star. So that was my gallery piece. So
When
that's
I'm,
what I'm about now, because
yeah.
it's completely 3D, and because the sewing, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Especially as your company grows, that hand sewing piece is, I'm sure that's a lot.
I mean, the people love my work that buy it, but they just don't realize how much time is
Goes
involved.
into it.
So from this, I can also make molds.
Okay. So that's a really good thing for the listeners out there that have product-based businesses. I think you touched on something interesting because there is that scalability piece. And as you grow and kind of outgrow the amount of pieces that you can hand sew, I think it's important to be focusing on what's another way to stay true to the brand, tell the story, but also get some more pieces out there. And it sounds like you've accomplished that. And what I love about, yes, you're 3D printing, but you are maintaining the hand painting. And then one thing that I think is so interesting and great about your brand is each piece has a little story behind it, or each line has a story. So just your piece of what you just said about the space sort of adventure, that's awesome.
And then in the boxes, like the backgrounds, I manipulated fabric by sewing different fabric, or I had a giant black hole, but I made that out of fabric. So I'm still adding fabric to so then I can they're more like picture boxes so people can hang them on their wall.
Oh, yeah.
And people love them. Everything I brought to sell sold immediately.
Wow. Yeah, I can see why. I mean, I just scrolled through this morning because we know someone in common that put me in touch with you. And so a few months ago when I looked at your site, I loved, like, and I don't know what word to use. Like, whimsy is kind of it. I'm not really sure, but when I look at your creatures, like, you just want to love them for their quirks. You know what I mean? Like, they're not the where everything is perfect and beautiful, but they have like the quirks, like the way their mouths are drawn, or the way their mouths are sewn, the way their eyes are, like some have one eye, some have two, they're really inviting.
Well, I took a marionette carving class in Prague, and
Oh,
they talked about how people aren't symmetrical and your character shouldn't be, and they really
oh,
spoken, get away from the Disney type characters. They really focused on a whole different way to look at things, and that really influenced my work.
That is interesting and very true. And that's probably why they're so lovable, is because I think we can all personally relate to having our own quirks, and not being perfect ourselves. And they just have like that individualistic sort of appeal to them.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Well, right? Well,
The first group I made, it was like really hard to sell them, because it was the first time I put everything into something, and it was like, oh, people are even like these 3D characters. That this is the first time I made them, and when I went in to see at the gallery if anything sold, she was wrapping them up, and it was like,
but you want them, right? I get it. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. All right. So as we kind of wrap up here, I would love to know, what is something that's on your radar that you've been thinking about recently that you think may be a trend or a hot topic within the next year or so that we'll all kind of be talking about or focusing on?
Well, I really think 3D printing is going to get much easier for people. At this point, it's not very easy.
Is it at this point? Is it my understanding at this point you usually have to go somewhere that has a 3D printer, and then it's usually a few businesses kind of renting, so to speak? Is that the common?
No, because I have them at home, and people did some web support for a company for 3D printers for extra money.
Okay.
The people, they struggle so much.
Okay.
And when I was a girl and I sewed, sewing was so awful because the bobbins always got tangled.
Right.
Sewing machines were awful. Now they're fine.
Yeah.
They're great. Anybody can use a sewing machine without those problems.
Except for me. I can't figure it out for some reason. But everyone else in the world can.
You have to start with something small and fun.
Right.
Because my sister, she never sewed, and I was trying to teach her a couple years ago, and I was just doing things, and she's like, why are you doing that? It's like, this is what,
You just learn the little tricks.
But the 3D printing, I think it's going to get much easier for people.
Yeah.
There's people that make just household items, and then there's creators, and there's a whole different ways of using it.
Yeah, well, that is really cool. I will keep my eyes peeled for more information and can't wait to see what else I find around markets or at stores that are 3D printed. I think it's so cool. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, and it was great talking with you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.